Welcome in to episode 114 of the Bluest Tape. I'm Harvey Couch alongside my good friend, Mr. Jeff Colath. Jeff, how you doing, man?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
We're both coming off North Carolina vacations.
That's true. You were in the mountains. I was at the lake.
Yep.
On the edge of the mountains. You had a good time?
We did. It was some solid family time and mountain time, and it was good. It was good. I it's finally like hot here in Memphis, or getting hot in Memphis, and so it was nice being in this inside of a cloud for when it was like 65 degrees.
That was like when we went to 48 a couple years ago and at Snowshoe, and you're on the top of the mountain, and it's chill. It's nice. Yeah. Jeff, I am super fired up about this show tonight. We're barely going to do any of this live because we recorded two awesome interviews with
really good
that we're going to play for the folks tonight. I think like it's up there with our 100th episode when we completed the bracket challenge, and we
the longest challenge in history. Yep.
Yeah, and we talked to Michael Palmisano, who guested with Humphreys McGee. That is unreal. I'm so stoked for him. Maybe we have to get him back and have him talk about
kids out there. I mean, anything can happen if you just put yourself on the YouTubes.
Right, that's literally all it takes.
Literally all it takes. No, obviously Michael's a really talented guy, but without the benefit of the YouTube, he would not have been able to do that.
Or people would not have, learned how awesome he is.
Yeah, so. It was great. I mean, I'm not a huge Humphreys guy, but I watched that clip and it sounded awesome.
Yeah. So here's the schedule for tonight. We've got we talked to Mr. Ted Rockwell, who gave us the preview of the Red Rocks run, and he attended all four of those shows. And I talked to him last night about the shows, and he gave his 2 pennies worth. And apparently it was a little wet, couple raindrops.
I heard tell, yes.
And so we'll go into that. And then just a little bit ago, we talked to a couple of folks in Wilmington to preview the shows at Wilmington this weekend. Jeff Hansen, who is a friend of the podcast, he's the guy who put together the Earth Will Swallow You and the Live at Oak Mountain DVD, and also the cult classic Scrapple. You ever watch Scrapple, Jeff?
I did, yes.
Okay.
I mean, like everybody probably watched it after The Earth Will Swallow You. Did you see it before The Earth Will Swallow You?
I think I might.
Cool.
I was. Well, I still am. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I was. I'm pretty sure I was that cool. Great soundtrack to Scrapple. But anyway, so Jeff Hansen, and then Bo Gunn, who was the first time I met Bo, but apparently is a friend of the pod, fan of the pod, and which is awesome.
A force for good in Wilmington, North Carolina.
I mean, for real. And so I'm super excited for you guys if you're not familiar with Bo Gunn. But yeah, he's doing the work. He's doing the people's work in Wilmington. And
I will say that I had zero FOMO about Red Rocks. Even if Red Rocks would have been like the perfect face melting run, I still don't think I would have been like, yeah, it was cool. Mm-hmm. But like, I think I might have a little FOMO about Wilmington after talking to Bo. Like, I feel like that's going to be a throwdown. It's going to.
Yeah, I agree. I really do think, because that is, they're going back. They're getting to the backyard. You know what I mean? They're going home, and I like it. So that's what we have. We've got those two interviews we're going to share with you guys, and any news of note that we need to talk to people. I mean, I can't believe we're in the middle. I mean, it's mid-July, Jeff. Like, we're almost halfway through the summer.
We're recording this. We're recording this during the Midsummer Classic.
That's true.
Also,
yeah. So
I watched the home run derby last night. It was Pete Alonso's dancing. It was pretty entertaining. Even when the young shagger in the outfield got hurt, Pete Alonso's still dancing. That was amazing. No, I think it's great to kind of get in this groove with shows, and hopefully more of this conversation between us and sirens in the background. Just to
Sounds
remind
like
everybody where I am, cicadas and sirens. It's Memphis, Tennessee. I'm just some
yeah.
random. At least it's fire. Um, but no, I think I came all prepared with all kinds of notes about One Tree Hill in honor
Hmm.
of Wilmington. All kinds of really strong takes about the Connells.
I think it's the Canals,
Or the
Jeff. I'm pretty
Canals.
sure it's the
See,
Canals.
then there you go. See, my takes are already out the window.
And
But
I think they're reuniting for a new album and tour. Honestly, like I
how,
think I saw that recently.
where do you find this information? Is this
About
on a secret spread net I don't know about?
no, there's this new website where people share information. It's Facebook.com. Have you ever
Oh,
been there?
is it
But
on
you can.
is it on the dark webs?
Yeah, it is. It's the net. It's internet 2. It's web
By
2.0.
the
Yeah.
but no, can I tell one quick story before we go? I'll tell it very quick.
It needs to be quick.
Very, very quick. You asked me what's been going on lately. I've been having incredibly vivid dreams lately, but the dreams I've been having are recurring. They're all about record shopping, and they're all about flipping through records. But the thing that is like jarring about it is that I'm actually creating records. Like I'm not digging through records that I've seen before. They are brand new records or of bands that I know, but they are in foreign language. So I had a dream the other night that I was flipping through a bunch of records at Shangri-La Records here in Memphis, Tennessee, flipping through a bin, and I was flipping through, and there was a copy of a Rodriguez record. Do you know Rodriguez?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was like this lost Rodriguez record. I completely made up the cover and the font and everything. And on the back, everything was in Punjabi.
Wow.
Like, I'm not making that up.
That's amazing. I mean, that's kind of a. I mean,
so
that's not a nightmare. I mean, those are good dreams.
No, but that's so. If anybody wants to know where my head's been at lately, that's where it's been. It's been about.
Okay. It's a strange place.
It's been there, so that's pretty strange. But anyway, I'm gonna stop talking. I just wanted to share that with our seven or 27 followers.
Yeah. So we were trying to decide which interview to do first. If we should do the Ted Rockwell Red Rocks or the Jeff Hansen and Bo Gunn Wilmington preview, and we figured because what we do on this podcast is look backward and not forward, it makes most sense to start with the look back, right?
That's where we are in America right now, Harvey. It just makes sense to just keep going back, like 1870s at this point.
But I do encourage everybody to hang out, and we'll come back on in between them, and then the Wilmington thing. I mean, Ted and I talked for a while. I told him, like, when we set it up, I was like, Ted, just like 15 minutes. I just want to, like, we'll do a high level recap, and then it was like 45 minutes later, and it's the guy knows his panic. So
panic.
That's for sure. And yes, and Jason Wood. We do need to bring back SpreadNet if we can make that work. I've been told by a little birdie that the archives do exist, but that because the internet was a different place back then, that there's some
copyright
fear. Well, I think
there's just like fears of dropping some things that
right, like that there are people in different positions that maybe would not have said the kind of things that they said on the internet back when we thought it was just an email to like 20 friends and not, out on the internet, which is, fair. But we should start over. I mean, would you do digest or would you do the individual messages?
I think I did individual messages when I first started, and then it got a little out of as it grew, it got out of hand. And then then of course there was the switch to Digipanic,
right?
Which was like where all the
cool kids hung out.
The cool kids hung out at Digipanic. And then, but that's where all so I never posted. I don't think I rarely posted on SpreadNet, but I posted a lot on Digipanic, and there's a lot of. I would like to read my show reviews that I used to post.
I know,
because I'm sure they're awful.
I'm sure they are
awful, but I thought they were so great at the time. So poignant.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe we can get those. If whoever we'll talk to who has the archives and be like, can you just pull out the things that have Jeff Kolath or Otto Moore tagged on them, because we just want to see his reviews, please. He's given permission.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. We've enjoying this new format, and hope that you are too. It's been fun. So we're gonna go now to a chat I had with Ted Rockwell. We talked about the Red Rocks run, and I'm going to see if I can make this work, because it's technology stuff can be a little challenging sometimes. So let's see if I can do this. I'm going to pull it up here. All right, joined by friend of the podcast, Mr. Ted Rockwell. Ted, have you dried off from the Red Rocks run?
Yeah, just barely. My underwear are in the dryer right now. You might hear it buzz. It's just next to me here. Wow.
So as we record this, you are what, 3 weeks, right? Post, or 2.5 weeks post.
2 weeks, 1 day from the Sunday show.
Yeah. So I want to get into, obviously the shows themselves, your experiences and the band and sort of the vibe there. How do you, with hindsight, and because we talked about this, I feel like going into it, how the Mission Ballroom show is going to align with the entire weekend, and is it its own thing, or is it part of the whole run? How do you now that you have hindsight, what do you feel about that? Is it its own thing? Was it its own moment, separate from the outside shows?
It was, in a sense. It was clearly the first show back, and it belonged to Red Rocks because it really primed the pump, so to speak, for what was about to come. Right down to the point that, they covered Hatfield Third Song In, which they played Hatfield Third Song In, which the voodoo, fucking hurt. Like,
did you know that? Was that a known thing? Like, you were going to, I want to get into the weather when we get into the Red Rock shows, but like, was the forecast that it was going to be pretty gross all weekend?
So the week before, it had been over 100 degrees 3 or 4 times in Denver. And so we were really worried about the heat, and turning the corner towards the Mission Ballroom, we'd seen, we have this, what they call a monsoon flow coming in, and hitting the line for Mission Ballroom was literally coinciding with the forecast for the first chance storms. So while we're waiting in line with, I don't even know, 5,000 other freaks. By the way, it was not half sold. This place was more than half sold. I'm here to testify. I had good vantage point, and it was more than half sold. And it got windy, and the clouds came in, and it sprinkled on us. And there was this moment where we were still 45 minutes from going in, and we're like kind of getting wet and kind of in a big crowd for the first time in a long time. Like, this is the first time, COVID times, being that close to a lot of people waiting in line to get to the Mission. So it was a little anxiety producing, right? But we knew rain would come. We've also said to ourselves, Panic always gets so lucky this time of year. When they did play the Hatfield, we were for sure like, holy crap, we're in for it. Like, we kind of knew it. One of my friends, Peter, he's seen Panic since the very early days. He's helped with promoting it since the very early days. He was standing right behind me when they were on Hatfield, and he was kind of above me. So I grabbed his ankles like this, and he kind of looked down. He knew I was there, but he was sort of like, what? And I'm like, it's going to rain. He's like, dude, it is gonna rain. We were just, so anyhow, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Sure. Okay.
Right? Going into the weekend, right? Mission Ballroom, you asked me whether it was a precursor. I don't think so. I'm going to tell you, wondering right out of the gate, it was, first of all, the greeting that everyone gave the band was, they had to start the music. Otherwise we'll still be there screaming right now. Like, we would have kept going. I cried, why must I lay low in a room full of strangers? I mean,
that is such a, we talked here, right? Everybody talked to what's the pick, what's the first song back. And I mean, I feel like Wondering is more in the vein of Imitation Leather Shoes, like you said, than, something real on the nose. But It is like, if you think, I mean, even though you can maybe consider it as like one of their more kind of pop songs, there's a lot of stuff going on lyrically. I mean, I wouldn't. There was a window of time that I was apart from my wife geographically. We were together, and saw Panic at the Palace in 2000, and they played Wonder, and it was the song that like knocked me over that show because of all the things that were going on in my life at that time. And so it's just really weird, right? So it's awesome that was the one, and that you had the same, that had that vibe.
I don't know if this is the case. I've never spoken to anyone about this, but I feel like Wonderin' was written by JB, maybe even with Hauser, about some of Hauser's experiences with social anxiety. And so many lines from that ring true for just being a human being.
Right.
And then going through this thing that we've all just been through, it was just like, it took my breath away. Literally, it was one of those moments where, and they just were unrelenting from there. I'm not going out west. Is a fantastic song. There's so many different things in there about, kind of not being appreciated, at the same time trying to bust through something, trying to like overcome the odds, with a little nod to maybe, you're not as good as you think you are. Right. It's just one of those things. Hatfield is also about someone who, is cooking up science and no one's believing him. And then he's more successful than anyone would have wanted, maybe. Anyhow, it just kept going. That first set was really, really well played. If you haven't heard it, big deal. When they get to Ribs and Whiskey, it was the lights. Hoffman brings the lights up and everyone's going freaking bananas. Let me just mention to you that the Mission Ballroom is really a special place. I've been there now, and I hadn't been before this. It's a really nice room. It sounds great in there. It's built for fans. Really easy parking. There's all sorts of dinner options just to the south of there in the Rhino District. The ticket prices do run a little heavier than places like Red Rocks, but dang, it is a great place. I had the best time there. Super sight lines, great floor. The only complaint I would have is that the whole thing is like stadium seating, but all cement, right? There's no benches. It's just a cement like thing, which is great because there's no accoutrement. You can't trip over anything. Two things to keep in mind about the venue. One, it's all concrete. So your feet, I'm 52 this year. In a week, I'm 52. And so my feet, in concrete. I'm pretty sure Widespread Panic owes me some sort of orthopedic surgery. My knees, my ankles, and my feet. The other thing is that getting in and out of the stands, there's not a lot of light when the show's on. So if you want to bring a little pen, flashlight with you, you can fit in your pocket. Highly recommended, especially if it's a date that might have heels or anything like that. You're definitely going to want some sort of lighting. Anyhow, they turn the corner on Ribs and Whiskey, and it's like the entire place is going berserk, right? And the lights are up, and you really got this sense that, holy shit, this place is just unhinged. And then Heart of Gold. Heart of Gold. There's a giant disco ball. I want to say it's 25 or 30 feet wide. It's the biggest one I've ever seen. It's an LED disco ball. So they had it glowing gold and just like flying around. And everyone, I mean, it was like huge. Ribs of Whiskey started this sing along, and then they just kept going, right? People were like, it was absolutely magical, right? You could really feel that everyone had kind of come together in a moment, right? And then typical Panic, they're like, we don't want to get too happy.
He's back.
Right. But then they turn the corner into this part of town visiting day, which was very emotional. I'm not going to go song by song through the whole 4-night run, by the way. Like this set in particular, they turn Thursday, it's knocking around the zoo. That was maybe the highlight of the entire weekend for me, by the way. They played really, don't get me wrong, and some rarities and things never played before after this. Right. But my legs were back right there. Right? I really felt like I was back. I'd forgotten about what was happening before. And it was time to celebrate, right? There was a real palpable sense we turned a corner there. So anyhow, second set was...
it seems that, well, the first set seemed just really well, especially you walk through it, just sort of well crafted, right? And sort of, not. I mean, you say sort of a traditional set, but like they know how to they know how to put together a set list, right? And that's just how they do it. It's just
it was
like
pretty clear they did not phone this in, and they'd had the opportunity to rehearse there for a few days, which apparently now is a thing. Billy and the kids, so Billy Strings and Billy Kreutzmann, among others, formed a super group called Billy and the Kids, and they're playing at Red Rocks tonight and tomorrow night. They've been rehearsing at the Mission Ballroom the last few days.
Oh, wow.
This is a great thing. Like I'm super psyched that we've got this going on in our town.
Right.
So it was definitely not a phone in. They were on point. They were playing really well. There was a lot of moments where you felt like they could just jam out. And the second set brought them in spades. The second set was really them kind of expanding on the theme of we're going to fucking rock your socks off and see how hard we can go. Gosh, I mean, Sleepy Monkey was such a highlight for me. There is a time. What a freaking great song that is.
Yeah. So happy that ended up in the rotation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. For sure. And then a surprise with, well, the BFD was pretty off the hook. There's a lot of stuff in here. Surprise Valley was a big surprise for me, though.
You thought that was going to be at the Rocks, right? I mean,
absolutely thought that was going to be at the Rocks. I liked that is here, actually. It kind of took the pressure off of some stuff that was going on at Red Rocks. I think they knew the weather was going to be for shit, and it was better to do this inside. With Hope in a Hopeless World kind of sandwiched right in the middle. Yeah. Just beautiful. Anyhow, it was a rocked out show all the way around. This was not a phone in. This was not a benefit concert. Yes, we did a good thing. They did a good thing, but holy geez, it was a really fun time and so great to get back at it and really no afterthought. This was clearly the start of something special.
Yeah. I mean, I think there was not concern, but right, you could have thought that would have been sort of an ease-in night, right, and that everything was all the heavy hitters would have been held back for the weekend. Maybe a couple, covers or something, but that it was going to be kind of straightforward. But it seemed like that this was the launch pad for the weekend, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell me about what the weekend was like. Again. You're now dry. You're almost all the way dried out.
Yeah. So
have you ever been more wet in your life, Ted? Ever?
That's a really good question. There are a couple of times I can think of. This ranks up there for weather-related concert experiences for sure. There's a couple of others at Red Rocks that I've experienced. Maybe we could do that another time. But going into this, we knew. Here's the joke among people who maybe live here and go to a lot of Red Rocks, in particular Widespread Panic Red Rocks. Let's bring our rain gear as insurance because then for sure it won't rain. Well, we had our rain gear. Now here, if you go to say Telluride Bluegrass, right, rain gear means a very specific thing. At Red Rocks, you usually can get away with a nice hooded rain jacket that you can zip up with some pockets. And that usually will do it. And then footwear that isn't going to just get soaked right away. Flip-flops not recommended, right? So we're in a...
Now, is this because I'm not a meteorologist, but is this because of the length of the rain or the volume of the rain? It's like you'd expect just a little storm, or if it does rain, it's going to be not so heavy. What's the strategy behind there?
Usually in Colorado, we don't get rain. It doesn't rain solid. It's like it passes, but it can be really intense, and there can be a lot of water with it. And by the way, for all of you people who live in places that aren't at altitude, it is cold. It's cold rain. We never have warm rains here. And so there's a very real chance that if you're just wearing a t-shirt and you're not taking it seriously, you can give yourself hypothermia just standing outside in the middle of the summertime, right? That's a real thing. And that has happened. I've seen people get slightly hypothermic at Red Rocks. So we were prepared, and it started raining on us in line before we were getting in. I think an hour and a half before, it rained pretty significantly. We had to hide out underneath tarps and we'd gotten pretty wet in that. And then it let up a little bit as we were getting in, and then it started raining again. And it essentially rained from that moment until partway through the second set on the second night. And then it rained again just after that until like Tuesday. It just kept raining.
Oh my
And so that's unusual for us. I mean, it happens, but it's not, especially that weekend. It usually happens this time of year rather than then, or maybe even a little later than this. So it rained like crazy. The first night was the worst of the rain. So let's do a review of the rains. Friday night, the rain was the worst. For Saturday, we were relatively prepared, everyone, but it was a little more mild. And then Sunday, it rained a lot, and it would rank pretty high 2 in the 1, 2, 3 ranking category. Having said that, once we got in, there was all sorts of stuff going on, shenanigans. When we did the running of the tarps, the crew played. What did they play? Oh gosh, it's not the Bitches Back. It wasn't Elton John. It was, but it was. Yeah. Oh fuck, I can't remember now. So there was that, and then there was all sorts of people like leading chants and people holding up banners, and there was just all sorts of stuff that we haven't seen before. Lots of people like seeing one another for the first time in a long time. A lot of people just in the moment hugging one another. There was a lot of reconnection going on that was hard to do anything but admire. It was a really interesting situation to have everyone, all of these people who have spent a lot of time together, but then not see each other come back together. It was, gosh, wow. I'm at a loss for words. That wasn't very eloquent at all, but
no, but I mean, it's been 2 years, right? And, and so I would assume a lot of high fives and a lot of,
a lot of hugs. At first, there were a few people like, trying to figure out the hug thing. And then it just kind of like one guy who will remain nameless, he came over and just gave me a huge bear hug. And his wife was like, honey, you didn't ask him whether you should hug him. And he said, it's Ted, though. It's Ted. Yeah. Right? That kind of thing was going on like crazy.
So, so how from the moment you get in until showtime, and the show started on time, right? I mean, that seems like kind of a rarity or a new thing?
Yeah, I've never seen this happen with Widespread Panic at Red Rocks ever. Like never ever. They started within seconds of 7 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. And then Sunday they were slightly delayed, but only modestly, maybe 15 minutes, and it was all weather. And I think it's all weather is the theme to the podcast, and why they were starting exactly on time. Here's what I know is that they played a 4-night run several years ago, and we had a lightning stoppage at the very first night. And they stopped and they stopped and they waited and they waited. And then they started up again and they played a full show and they went well past curfew. And I think that they ended up spending a bunch of money out of their own pockets to end up, and it was very expensive. I think that was fresh on their minds going into this weekend. Also knowing that every dollar is going to people who need it, right? They need to make as much money as possible because they've been off the road for a long time. And so I believe that it was a weather strategy. If you start on time and then you have a delay, you still have enough time to get in your contracted show, right? You can and give the fans what they paid for. I mean, I think they're taking that pretty seriously too.
Yeah, and I would think artistically, like they wanted to get the shows in. You know what I mean? I'm sure they had them all mapped out. It wasn't like you didn't want to drop an encore from one of these shows if you didn't have to, right? So just start on time. What a concept for an old guy like me. I'm all about it.
Yeah, well, and there's a strict regime at Red Rocks. There's a lot of neighbors who are complaining very actively as of this moment about the noise at Red Rocks. And even though the venue really has tamped it down and really tried to get it under control, the neighbors continue to be involved. And so I think that there's also a certain amount of that happening at the venue level too.
I mean, I certainly respect neighbors, but I mean, it's not like they didn't realize that there was a music venue close to their house unless I don't know how long they've been living there, but
I'm relatively local, and so
no, that was me.
No comment.
The views of the host of this podcast are not reflected to the guests.
I think there is a certain NIMBY thing going on there that I don't really approve of. Initially, the complaints I think were really well founded because of EDM concerts. There was some big bass rattling through there. And so I totally get that. But,
Yeah.
there's been music happening there for well over 100 years and maybe longer than we can all historically remember. So, people need to live in the communities they live in and accept it for all of it, not just the beautiful, but also the flaws, the things that don't agree with you.
Okay. So highlights first night. I'm Not Alone encore or opener.
That's crazy.
I mean, that's a hair on your arm razor. I mean, I have still like vivid memories of New Year's '95 in Macon of that song, of everybody singing along, and never having experienced anything like that before on the "No, You're All Here" part. So that was pretty nice. I gotta say.
I agree. And going into then a slow porch song, it's a very it is a subdued way to start in a way.
Yeah.
But man, it was fantastic. It was really. I don't think there was anyone complaining as they turned the corner out of the slow porch song and disco got the whole place going. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really fun way to because it's hard getting in that venue, guys. It was raining on us. We had been sort of you're looking forward to the weekend, your energy's still up, but at the same time, there is a bit of a damper. And so to have kind of a beautiful opening with a hit you in the face kind of disco Roberta situation, good stuff. Yeah.
So any other highlights on night one that you want to?
The Pigeons is well worth. People should seek it out. It's a good one for sure. Turning the corner into the second set, Busted Big is a crowd pleaser. It was all right. I actually left at that moment to go and get a drink and go to the bathroom because as soon as I heard it come up, I'm like, I've heard it a million times. I'm sure it's going to be a crowd pleaser. I'm exhausted at this point. I'm actually pretty tired. So Little Lily, though, into that jam got me going again. And I was at this point kind of regained again my sea legs dancing. And
you're out of shape, Ted. I mean, it's been, you know what I mean? Like we're not up to we haven't had spring training here.
No,
you're getting right into the
shape. That's a real thing. Again, it is a difficult venue. You park way the hell away. You get a lot of stairs you got to climb. It gets cold. Rain and cold. So, not in Red Rock shape for sure. And I felt it for a long time. We'll get to that. The Lily Jam Pilgrims that's in here is really fantastic. I'll also say that on this night, I was standing next to this girl who had never seen a Panic show before. And she had been taking pictures. And the Pilgrims part of it, I was like, she's like, what's this about? And I'm like, it's about being on the road. She's like, oh, okay. And then Saint X, I was like, this is the closest JB has ever gotten to writing an anti-war song I think I've ever heard. It is, based on The Little Prince, and it is an underappreciated classic. A lot of people do not like this song. I love this song. If you listen to the lyrics, you listen to what JB's putting out there, it's very much about not judging one another and kind of living with one another, even though maybe our make-believe is what it is. It's a really interesting statement, in my opinion. And then going down, basically this whole run from all-time low, Jack, give down. May Your Glass Be Filled Wrangler is ridiculously good. And let me tell you, part of the reason for that is because of the weather. It's the theme of the podcast. It starts raining. It starts raining hard again. And not just hard. By the time we turn the corner into down, our shoes are filling with water. And our rain gear has failed at this point because it's taken on so much water. I can feel water coming in on my clothes, and now my underwear is getting wet too. Yes, my underwear was wet too. We had joked before this that maybe we should bring underwear with us because I've had a couple shows at Red Rocks like that. We had sacred socks in our bag though. We did have.
Smart. That's a professional move, Ted.
You got to do that. So in any case, that was really well done. That whole thing. Give down, by the way. That to me, again, I don't know what people have to say about this, but I thought Todd was involved in writing Give. I think that is.
I think Sam said that he wrote it, that it was his song.
I'm pretty sure that it is his song. And so right there, we've got this like real moment of, because it's back to back, and there's no, and then every glass be filled, right? They're exercising something there on the first night, right? And slipping it in a way where, yes, everyone's going to talk about the down, but there's something about the way that progressed that I like deserves further examination. Okay. And so they finish up that Wrangler. Everyone's super psyched, and everyone's like, fucking A, I can't believe it. We made it through one night of this, and it's still raining like crazy, by the way. It's absolutely just belting us with rain.
Yeah. So what would be the best move after that, Ted? What would be
I joked around in the prior podcast that Chili Water might open, and here it is closing the first night. I don't think there's another way to even, because it was chilly, cold, chilly, wet water. Yeah. And it was off the freaking chain. I mean, people were losing their berserk minds because at this point we have battled through this thing, and there is just rain, sheets of rain. People have probably seen the photos of it. Just imagine the coldest water you've ever, right? There's nothing some wook with a freaking water bottle is going to do to you in this. It's just like, you've already seen that times 1,000, right? So people left satisfied for sure. There had been flash floods though. The stairs at Red Rocks is drainage. And so there was some pretty good amounts of water coming down those stairs. A few people falling down because, it's not, yeah. So it was an interesting day. Like, we all woke up the next day kind of saying to ourselves, holy yeah, don't we? Like, that happens over the course of a 3-day run at Red Rocks for widespread. But in this particular case, it was, okay, where's the rest of our rain gear?
Right. We need a strategy here.
Because I mentioned Telluride Bluegrass. In Telluride Bluegrass, having in other places, other outdoor festivals, having rain gear means also having pants. It also means maybe having a poncho on top of the rain gear in case of those big downpours. So we located these ponchos that I've had a couple of them since the 70s. I'm not kidding. These are my parents' like camping gear, PVC, super awesome, bulletproof.
It's probably illegal these days to buy. They can't even sell that stuff anymore.
They're more like tents than they are, Right. So, and we went to Target and got rain suits for Jack and I because the pants. And let me tell you, we got out of the car Saturday after parking, and it immediately started raining. Like, as soon as we got out of the car, the whole way down there, we're like, well, maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe it'll pass us. It started raining as soon as we got out of the car, rained on us the entire time we were in line, and then it let up, and then it rained some more. And so having the rain pants helped a lot because you can actually sit down. So I've got the set list for the second night pulled up here. There's so many things. Holden to open any show is such a throwdown. It is such a throwdown song. Like, if they play that, you need to listen to them because they're about to do some stuff that's really amazing. And this set was no exception. Holy geez, folks, right? Every single song in here is played like with with a point. Right, they are making a point at this point. They have turned the corner from, hey,
everyone's back in.
Now they're just fucking playing lights out. They're like, nothing, everything has gone wrong that can go wrong. We're just gonna play this thing like anything. That Good Morning Little Schoolgirl sickness, the absolute sickness. Tie Your Shoes, people were going absolutely berserker. So lots of great stuff in there.
The second half of that first set is so dirty. I mean, with Impossible and Blight, Tie Your Shoes.
It's good stuff. I mean, you turn the corner and you're in the set break, kind of going, wow, like, how are they? That was kind of hardcore. Like, that was, and they just decided, you know what, we're going to turn it up one more, right?
Yeah, but it goes to 11.
Oh my God, there's so many places in this second set, guys. This, in my opinion, this second set is probably right up there with the first set of the first night as far as musicianship and passion and just flat out jamming and having fun with it. That four-cornered and a machine gun, ridiculous. Like we were just losing our minds. Oh, and by the way, it had kind of stopped raining. And so we were all like, fucking A. I actually took my rain jacket off, which is like, what? So, and then Degenerate, Papa's Home. Papa's Home was fantastic. Good stuff all the way around. I would say that, again, that second set that's the one to seek out, at least from what my ears told me at the show.
Okay. So you make it through the second night. And so the rain has dissipated a little bit. You're not soaked to your underwear on Saturday night.
Exactly.
The rain suit held.
Rain suit, and we didn't have to bust out the ponchos, which was nice. But I was wearing my rain jacket with a rain suit over the top of it, and not taking any prisoners. One of the things you guys don't know is that I'm a big nerd. No, you know that. Right. I'm a big weather nerd, and I pull up the radar while we're at shows at Red Rocks to kind of like help people understand, like, and now you're putting your rain gear back on because you don't want to get caught by that crap. And so I was doing that all night Saturday night, and it really came in handy Sunday because at one point on Sunday, it actually turned a corner and the sun came out.
Wow.
For like 2 minutes. And so everyone took their stuff off, right? And then about 45 minutes later, like full on spitting wet, gotta have a poncho kind of thing. But yeah, let's talk about Sunday. First of all, Danny Hutchins was very present on the first Red Rocks show, first night. Some of his ashes were spread up at the very top of Red Rocks. People were, sporting shirts and pins. I actually got this pin from a good friend of mine. Thank you, darling.
Nice.
Truly missed. And so first set, right? And what a great tribute, because they went through each of the songs that they're known for covering.
Right.
But they also did a couple of things like Mercy Train to Bogart, which I think there are a lot of people who think that they have played that before, but Panic has not ever covered before. And by the way, it's also a fucking fantastic song, and they should have been playing it.
There was that was Halloween '95, right? Was there some confusion over the set list? I'm sure you were the one speaking the truth. You couldn't have been responsible for any of the mistakes, right?
Well, no. The organization that I represent, took fan reports of what the set list was and repeated them. So yes, the Everyday Companion did publish Mercy Train to Bogart as being played on that show, but on further review. And these days we take it so for granted that we can just, what show are you talking about? And in 5 seconds I can have that song. Yes. Where back in the day it was like, okay, I got to get the tapes first of all. Yeah. That could take months. And
then you got to get the Bloodkin album. Like where did I put that CD? Somebody borrowed that CD. I don't even know which one that's on, right? But yeah,
that's a great song. And let me tell you that the Trashy, which is there's a couple of things here. One, I think did I talk to you about what covers the Panic will actually do? That they don't do any contemporary.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, we talked about this. Yeah, they never do the hits, right? I mean, it's never.
And here is Trashy, which was just published. I mean, this was less than a year old, this song. This is a big deal. I mean, I don't mean to be too dramatic about it, but this has never happened. This is kind of a scholar's rarity. Someone who knows a lot about a particular artist, Widespread Panic. Here we go. Like this is something, having to learn someone else's lyrics, covering a contemporary. They're paying respect and honoring the man, and I hope this thing sticks around. It is
me too.
Such a beautiful song, and JB does it such justice. You can tell he connects with it. I cried during that song too. Like there were several songs like that. This was one of them. It surprised me because I've never heard it before. Right. I don't have that new album, and I should. And it moved me. So
it sounds so much like Panic doing a Bloodkin song, which is so great. You know what I mean? But it just fits the mold, which I think is awesome. And I really hope it does stick around. I think it will, but I mean, who knows? It was a special moment, I'm sure.
it was a really special moment, and honestly, it's one of those things where as soon as they turned the corner on it, there were a lot of people who were really paying a lot of attention to what was going on. It's kind of why we all came, to a certain extent. Many people who, had been, seeing Bloodkin for many years and seeing all their trials and tribulations. That band did not need to survive, but they survived. They made it through. They still need our support. And I think that that's a part of this, is that, as much as we like our little band Widespread Panic, there are some artists around them that have really helped make their career what it is. Bloodkin is one of them. And you should definitely look up Bloodkin, Danny Hutchins, Eric Carter. These are artists that deserve your attention and deserve your hard-earned money, because Lord knows they gave their lives to the music that you would enjoy there. So anyhow, there's my pitch for those guys.
Yeah, please. If you have not listened to Bloodkin before, I don't know how you're listening to this podcast or watching this video, but if you are, hit pause, go to your street, or go buy it. Go to the store and buy the album, because when did you realize it was going to be a Bloodkin set?
Can't get high. I mean,
really, you thought like from the jump, like is this they're gonna?
As soon as they went into it, it was pretty. I mean, we all were saying that Sunday we were.
And I guess too, like they hadn't played any of them up to that point, right? So it would make sense. All right. Yeah.
Everyone's asking me like when we're going to get a tribute. I'm like, I kept saying that it's going to happen all weekend. It's going to happen all weekend. But once you turn the corner on Friday, it was like, yeah, they're going to do it on Sunday. You could feel it coming. It was the end of the show. First time end of the show has been in the first set.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. Against a scholar's rarity right there.
Yeah, I was surprised by that, because I felt like even like you'd seen like a couple mid-set end of the shows. It was like, man, it had to have shown up in a first set at some point. You know what I mean? They've encored with "Let's Get the Show on the Road," so why can't they play end of the show on the first set? But it just never happened. I
thought incorrectly that they had opened a show with end of the show once, and they hadn't. I think I was thinking, let's get the show on the road, or a version of it or something. There's one, "Let's Get the Show on the Road" 10/9/94 is like one of my all-time favorite moments in Widespread Panic history. They go Maggot Brain, "Let's Get the Show on the Road," and to open with Maggot Brain, and then I would love to see something like that in the modern age, but I don't know. So second set,
let me just, before we're on the end of the show, my pick on the end of the show is 427.97.
Oh yeah.
The Burlington encore that starts with JB solo on the mandolin doing the end of the show, and then drops into Low Spark. Is just.
I think that I'm going to have to go out there and find like different versions of JB coming out and doing something solo with the band joining him. There's a few. That's one of them. That's really ridiculously amazing. I witnessed one in Pittsburgh once. They encored with "Let's Get the Show on the Road," and he came out solo and did the first verse and a half, and then each band member came out and dropped right into the song perfectly. Right? He was going to the second set of lyrics, second chorus. I was like, well, yeah. Anyhow, I'd love to find. I think I should find those and put them together.
Sounds like a good project.
Yeah. Anyhow, second set's really solid. Of course, the postcard, gets everyone off on their thing. It's interesting how Diner, right, had not shown up to this point. And it was the Jimmy Fest of Protein Drink Sewing Machine, right, is one of those moments where there's many fans that really love it. I really love it. I think it's really, I think it's fantastic. But there are, there's some folks that get worn out by it. But at this point, we're on the third or fourth day, and we've been climbing up and downstairs. It's fucking raining like crazy. It's still raining, guys. It did not stop raining. Just to wipe any sort of notions of it's nice and sunny.
There's a rainbow out.
Fucking raining like shit on us right now. We are wet and miserable, and many of us are cold. And the Diner comes out, and it was I think a moment that tied everyone back in again, right? Like there was some people who were struggling during that heavy metal barrage back, right? And it was a really good one. I haven't re-listened to it, but I recall JB kind of getting out there, and it felt like it was a good moment. Into Jamais-Vu, which a lot, again, underappreciated song. A lot of people don't. I like this song partly because it's about Gary Vereen and others, but it's about Gary Vereen. And once you kind of understand that and understand kind of the realities of the man, it's a beautiful song. It is, to me, every time I hear it, I'm, stopping and listening to what JB's getting to. And so, yeah, some crowd pleasing, Airplane, Red Hot Mama, Fishwater. I don't remember much about this because at this point, I'm pretty wet. Did I say it was raining? And I was actually kind of turning the corner towards, hey, we probably need to think about packing our stuff up because everything was, just in plastic bags and you didn't know where it was. And Encore was pretty good. Yeah, that I'm so glad.
I'm so glad it was nice. That felt like a nice sort of coda to the whole weekend.
So many people were just hopping up and like turning, like just screaming at anyone else and screaming at the rocks. I'm so glad it was. And I was among them. It was great. I really felt like, and again, sort of a tip of the hat there to the Colonel, right? Which. Mm-hmm. He's the daddy of all of these people that they've paid tribute to over the course of the weekend, really. And then into Love Tractor, which is just, why not?
Yeah, that was, so it seemed like Sunday was maybe the tribute night, right? You had the Bloodkin Nod, you had Vic, you had Gary, you had Michael, you had, the Colonel. That was special.
Yeah, it was really special, and I would say that after that first set, everything else felt like a dessert in a way. I don't know. For me personally, the way that my weekend had progressed, at that point it was just like fully satisfied, right? Yeah. Still want more at the end of the second set. It's like, well, sure, Fishwater. At this point, I actually would like to go home. I got everything I needed to get out of this weekend. I'm exhausted. I am dead. I am physically abused. I am cold. I am wet. We were drying stuff out for 3 days. I'm not kidding. Our Ranger was in our bike shed for a while, and it took me forever to put stuff away. Usually, again, a 3-night run, you prepare for it, you get stuff in the car, and you're back and forth, and there's not a lot of time to kind of deal with much. Mm-hmm. So it takes a couple of days usually to unpack. Friday morning of the following week, I still had a cooler of beer on my front porch, which is not, first of all, I would have brought those in and probably drank them or something. Right. But thinking of all a cooler on the front porch, how gauche, my wife doesn't allow that.
Right.
So yeah, it was a great weekend. It was really wonderful to connect with so many different people, and too bad the rain, but this now becomes a part of legend. Like no one will ever talk about this and not mention something, some sort of weather related adventure that they got themselves in. It's one of those. I think Jerry Garcia had this thing of, the kids today go see us because they don't have the circus to join. And these are their war stories, right? These are and that's how I feel about this last, last weekend run shows the Panic did. It got us back in the zone. Like we were in the zone. We were freaking dancing in amongst 10,000 other people, guys. Like we were doing that. And for many of us that had just been in our imagination for such a long time, that there's a tendency for that to just feel like magic versus actually being magical. And there's so many different sections of this. Again, seek out that first set of the first night at the Mission Ballroom, the second set of the Saturday night. I would think the Bloodkin set, obviously, everyone talks about that one. But do not forget about this crazy first set of Saturday night either. It's that Good Morning Little Schoolgirl section is, that's about as widespread panic as it gets right there. So
nice. Well, Ted, I'm happy you made it through. It sounds like it was a blast. You kind of got to the end there, but you made it.
Yeah, I made it. And, I think part of what I'd like to kind of just say to everyone out there is, you should get out and try to get out there and see them. This band isn't just like playing. Yeah, they're playing well. This isn't just, oh, well, they're back. They're back like in a way that feels like it could lead to something, but they're going to need your support to get there. Everything's sold out right now, but as they start adding shows, make sure you get yourself out there, because I have a feeling these guys they're serious. They're serious this time, man. This time they're serious.
I told, I don't know who I was talking to, maybe it was to Jeff, that if you compare this band to the Grateful Dead, that this era of panic is the Grateful Dead in 2001, which is crazy, right? I mean, could you even imagine the Grateful Dead in 2001 being able to do what Panic just did, right? So good on them, and yeah, all the support. We can be old curmudgeons and talk about how much better the old times were, but you might as well enjoy a little bit of the present time if you can.
Absolutely. I mean, this is, there's dreams being made every night when they hit the stage. Honestly, they're playing really well. They're connecting with one another. I feel like there's a lot of, gratitude that there's something that can happen, right?
Yeah.
A reconnection to the material and to their art that I don't think we're going to be able. I predict at near the end of this year, we're going to be talking about just how amazing this year ended up being. We'll see.
Yeah. Right. No. And I mean, I was going to say the same thing. As you look at the road ahead, you can just see sort of like inspiration laying in front of them, right? I mean, they're playing this weekend at a brand new theater on a river in Wilmington, right? And then they're going to be in Asheville, and then they're going to be in Austin, Texas, and in Napa, and 5 nights at the Beacon, and then, right down the road from the Stax Museum of Soul Music in Memphis, and 4 nights in Milwaukee, and back to New Orleans and Chicago, and you know what I mean? So my target is to get to the Halloween shows. So that's my goal, to get to New Orleans. We'll see if that happens.
That would be great. I would love to go to New Orleans. But part of me is wanting to get to Memphis. I feel like Memphis, that looks like a really freaking cool festival. And yes, New Orleans for sure. But I like to go to New Orleans, and Panic in New Orleans will be great, but I'd almost like to separate those two. I go for Panic.
I totally buy that, because you can't do New Orleans. And I mean, you can, but then you end up, with the sore liver at the end of the weekend. You have to separate, right? And, but I'm from New Orleans, so I can go and I can do them both, right? It's not a big deal. So,
oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Born and bred. So that's my home. So I'm going to try to get back there for that. But I hear you. Like, it's better to do New Orleans without Panic, honestly, because you can do more for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be a great year. I think that's part of the message here is that, if we can continue moving on the right tread with all of this, then we've got ourselves a real, a band that we can go see and feel good about, which doesn't necessarily have to happen after how many 65 years. How old are these guys? It feels like they've been performing forever. My anniversary of seeing them for the very first time and remembering it is coming up on July 22nd. I saw them in 1992, so it's the 29th anniversary. I saw them on my birthday, and it's one of those things to realize that 30 years is three decades of music. And at that point, they were mature in their craft. They had already released 2 albums, and they had picked up their second keyboardist. They were in arguably, probably the 6th personnel change. A lot of people don't realize, people don't think in terms of like, well, then T. Lavitz, and then there was Hauser, and then there was George, and then there was Jimmy, as if that's the only permutations of the band existed. And there's a lot of crap that happened back in the early days. Yeah. So in 92, they were already fully formed and in flight, writing some of the best, music of their career. And stuff that hangs better than much of what their contemporaries were doing, I would argue as well. Spin Doctors, are you kidding me? I mean, Blues Traveler, maybe, arguably, but I find the lyrics in particular to be cynical and not as poetic as what JB was going for.
Well, I mean, there's a difference of being in New York City and in Athens, Georgia, is probably what's driving that. But I agree with you. 100%.
Not to bring Fish into this. Fish is pretty fluffy in comparison. Sure, I get it. There are some songs I totally and I appreciate that, but not at the level that Panic was going for. Widespread Panic and JB in particular, they were going for a certain Southern Gothic, maybe a poetic, a writer's set of lyrics for their songs. And so by 92 to have that kind of thing going on and then realize that was 30 years ago. Dude, I'm getting old is, I guess, part of the message. Here's the other part of the message. These are artists that perform at the top of their game, and they have really carved out something here that I think is going to be interesting to watch over the course of the year.
Yeah, I'm with you. Awesome. Well, Ted, I appreciate your time. I didn't mean to keep you so long, but I'm glad that we were able to get through the weekend. Is there anything that we didn't? We talked about the timing of the shows, right? That was, you wanted to get into that, and
well, they ended really early too. I mean, there was things that they ended,
but it wasn't. I mean, the shows weren't short, right? It was just it was an early start, and was it a shorter set break, maybe a little bit? And
yeah, I think on Saturday we were home at like 11:15 or something crazy. It was really early. But again, that's just how I appreciate that. I'd rather they start really early and end early. But what did I just get done saying? 30 years.
All right. Well, I hope we talk again before next June, but if not, then we'll look forward to that. And best of luck on everything moving forward.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on again. And thanks everyone for supporting the Everyday Companion.
I need to unmute myself. That was
Ted Evan Rockwell, man.
Ted Evan Rockwell bringing the heat at the end.
Seriously,
from the top rope.
Yeah, that was something. Lots to unpack. Thanks for the plug for the Stax Museum of American Soul Music.
Sure,
Harvey, and I hope those of y'all come see us in Memphis. Chris Foster has posted that he's doing Milwaukee, Chicago, and New Year's Eve. So that's a big fall for you, Chris Foster.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ted was great. I especially loved, and again, this is somebody that has been to a lot of shows. He ranked the rainstorms for all 3 nights. That was amazing. That was so awesome.
Yeah. I also liked that he brought up the 10/9/94 show, like going full circle with talking about Wilmington and Simon Horrocks.
That's right.
And the excellent, was it Maggot Brain driving, show on the road driving to start it off.
Yep.
But
should we tell the people what we're talking about briefly?
Sure.
So there's 2. Panic played before 2014. Panic, the last 2 times Panic played in Wilmington, which they had played in Wilmington a couple times in the early 90s. Was the Mad Monk in Wilmington?
Yes, the Mad Monk was in Wilmington.
And so they played there in 91, 92, and then 94, 10/9/94, the fall tour with Freddie Jones Band. They open with Maggot Brain, JB on acoustic. You can hear him like plucking around before Gary comes out. Maggot driving, Let's Get the Show on the Road driving to open the show. 1-set show, and then they play Maggot for a second time later on in the show in the old Trask Auditorium. And then they come back on 4/9/96, and really, that is the definition of a sleeper show. It looks kind of meh on paper, but that first set, Radio Child, massive jam, I'm Not Alone, and then just a sick diner. I listened to that on the way to work this morning, and like the hair stood up on my arms because I had it really loud in the car.
Nice.
And it was like that dirty Hauser 96 sound, just crunchy as all hell, and like he was just on the pedal. It was just amazing.
Not only did they bring the maggot brain back in that 10/9/94 show, it was in the middle of a chili water sandwich. So not bad.
We played some stuff from that show before, but yeah, that was an all-time. That was an all-time show, and I think that was made with like split Shure SM58s, maybe. I think
Wow.
58s, I think. So sounds great for whoever recorded that show. And so yeah, then they you'll hear they played in 2014, but first time since 2014, and first time in a real venue since '96, because it sounds like 2014 was in the parking lot, and we got some great stuff coming up on the show, and then great stuff coming up for the folks in Wilmington this weekend too.
Yeah, and I did find it interesting. Ted throwing his pick for the heater the rest of the year is at the Mempho.
Yeah,
so I like that
festival show, a festival show in East Memphis. So if Ted's coming to Memphis, we'll roll out the red carpet. I gotta come up if anybody. You can help me, Harvey, but I'm throwing it out there. I need to come up with a promotion. I mean, I am in charge, so I can make up these things. A promotion for Mempho festivals, but I should find that. Maybe should I make my own Stax themed bootleg Panic shirt? No, I can't. That'd be a violation of many things. But we should come up with a promo for the folks in the Bluest Tape to pay us a visit. Maybe it's we got a little time. We got 3 months.
Yeah, no, I dig it. Okay, so that was our look back with Ted and the look at and talking about Red Rocks 2021. And so now we are, as we have done in the show, you've seen our metamorphosis as we have changed over the years that we've been doing this.
We've grown so much as human beings too.
We have.
Really? We have.
And that we've embraced the current incarnation of the band, and so we're looking forward to the Wilmington shows. And so it's a brand new venue down on the river. These are the first real shows, and so I reached out to our friend Jeff Hansen, who lives down in Wilmington, and said, Jeff, can you come on, give folks the lay of the land down in Wilmington and what what's coming on, what's going to be happening this weekend? And he said, yes, but you should talk to this guy instead. And that is Bo Gunn, who runs the Penguin. And were you aware of the Penguin before the conversation? Okay.
I'm going to start checking it out.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I mean, I've been aware of it for a while. I don't know where I saw somebody, recommend it. And it's fantastic. So I think it's 98.3, penguin983.com, or I'm not sure.
It's a commercial station.
It is a commercial. And that is one kind of bummer is that you do hear commercials, but it's fun. The music is fantastic.
To do what they're doing as a commercial station is pretty remarkable.
It is, really. And so, Bo runs the station and also played a big part in getting this amphitheater built, and then bringing Panic in as the kickoff act. And so, if you're watching this and you're going to go to the shows in Wilmington, have patience with those folks as they work out the kinks and get there early, and don't freak out if they run out of beer, because that's what happens when Panic comes to town.
They might run out the first night, but they won't run out the second and third nights. That's
right. So, okay, so we chatted with those guys, and so we'll play that, and then we'll come back at the very end and put a bow on this. So we appreciate you watching and joining us tonight. Instead of watching the All-Star game, I'm sure the American League is winning like they usually are.
4-1.
The junior circuit. Okay, so let's see if we can get see if I can get this video pulled up here. And all right, this is us from a couple hours ago with Jeff Hansen and Bo Gunn. We are joined by two very special guests all the way from Wilmington, NC, Bo Gunn and Jeff Hansen. Guys, thanks for joining the pod.
Well, thank you for having us. It's exciting. Big fan.
Not much going on in Wilmington right now, right? You guys just chilling out.
I can't be the long-time listener, first-time caller, because I've been on the show before.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of that phrase and I couldn't think of
Yeah,
it.
right. Yeah.
At any rate, yeah, there is a lot of excitement in the air. Panic has been to Wilmington throughout the couple of decades, but there's something different about it this time. I can tell you that it's palpable, as they'd say.
Well,
Do you think
it's a historic night in the history of the town, because this is an amphitheater that will be here for a long, long time, and this will be, the trivia question: who was the first band? So, it's a big deal.
And not just that, but then this is basically the second run of the band in a year and a half, right? I mean, so they got their feet wet, and by all accounts, very wet in Red Rocks in the rain, but great shows there, and now ready to get down south and get down to business, as they say, right?
Yeah, we're feeling pretty fortunate. It was one of those pinch me. This isn't going to happen, right? I mean, all right, we've got it on the calendar, and it's like, will the venue be done? Will COVID be enough complete? There's no way that the stars are going to align, and it did. And it was I still didn't believe it until it was out there and then on sale, and then it was like, all right, this is happening. I'm not for the first notice play.
So, talk a little bit about the history, I guess. I mean, I'm sure not only the lead up to this run of shows, but just to get this thing built. It was supposed to be a baseball stadium. I mean, was that was the original plan for that space? Or talk a little bit about how y'all got to having it there.
Let me take this, because I can tell you this place would not be built without this guy right here, because there wouldn't be a market of music of this caliber that would attract Live Nation had Bo not built this thing up from the ground up. I mean, so I'm going to go back a little bit further. So I'm going to tell Bo's story. He's very humble, but it goes something like this. They started the Penguin, I'm going to say around 2003. And there were two guys named Jerry and Mark who came into this market and wanted to start a radio station. It was going to be called the Penguin. And the idea was it's a different kind of bird. And they still roll with that slogan. The way I always describe the Penguin is it's the station that plays the most Taj Mahal and J.J. Cale that you'll ever hear on commercial radio. Take it from there. So, right, they play the older stuff they play is pretty roots, and then they play newer stuff that's, kind of independent. It's weird. You say indie rock, and I don't really think that describes it the best. I'm going to take it back, but what do you call all this cool new music that's rock and roll? Do you call it indie rock?
I do not call it indie rock. It's some of it's Americana, some of it's jam, some of it's just new rock and roll. But I mean, we call it Penguin music, and we try to brand it that way. But
I actually think that's a well said, because it's just not indie rock, but yet a lot of it is independent, right? So that and we got to give the credit to Jerry and Mark. That was kind of their idea. They actually wanted to do a radio station in a restaurant. That was their original idea, and then they realized, hey man, it's really loud in here. We can't really do that. So they set up the Penguin, and Bo comes on as an intern, production assistant. How old were you, Bo? 20 years old. Bo comes in. He's 20 years old. He's learning the business. And then one day there's a little bit of a conflict with Jerry and Mark and ownership, and Jerry and Mark kind of overplayed their hand, and then those guys and the ownership was like, you're fired, Bo, you're hired. So Bo Gunn is running a radio station. How old?
20 years old, 21.
20 years old. And I tell this story a lot. Like it was an incredible. Sometimes it's like being in the right place at the right time. Sometimes the door opens for you, but you got to walk through the door. And nobody in my lifetime have I ever seen walk through the door high stepping, in the sense that he just and this was in what year? 2000, almost 20 years ago.
2005.
He's got the Midas touch. I mean, he has just delivered and continued to deliver. He's one of those guys in the community. It's like one of those things, like everybody loves Bo. It's just like a given, right? You want to rag on people, you move on. You're like, yeah, we can't rag on Bo. We gotta
Give me his name.
But So where the story goes, also in '04, I sent a CD of a radio show I had just done at KOTO and Telluride, and like, man, I love the station. I'd really like to DJ for you. And I was like, I'll never hear back from them. And like a day later, Bo hits me back and is like, basically, I'd like you to be the afternoon DJ. And I'm like, whoa.
I couldn't believe it was the guy from the Earth Will Swallow You
I
film.
mean, right? And Scrapple.
Yeah.
Well, Earth Will Swallow You. He was all about panic, and then you can get into your whole panic thing. But so then I had the fortune to be the DJ here. I only did it for about 2 years. I had kids, and it was just hard. I mean, I had to pay the babysitter more than I was making at the station. That's nothing else. It's kind of the way like independent radio goes. But I mean, it was just a dream job. And I interviewed Derek Trucks when he was still pretty young, and I also had Mike Madison in the studio from the other guy from other singer from the Tedeschi Trucks band, but all kinds of people like Eric Lindell. I don't know, a lot of people in the studio. It was just, I had so much freedom. I used to joke that like I was the only DJ in America that could play a 12-minute bar stools during the 5 o'clock hour. It was like that. I mean, it was insane. And so Bo just gave me that freedom. And so I'm forever grateful for that. And when I returned back to Wilmington, he was kind enough to give me a weekly show. It's called When the Needle Hits the Groove. You can get the Podbean app, and that's where you find my shows. You can listen to them. They're there. Okay, so Bo, in about 2008, sort of before that, if I wanted to go see a show, I was driving down to Myrtle Beach, about an hour and 20 minutes from here, going to the House of Blues to see bands like, the Drive-By Truckers and Government Mule and whoever it was. It was all going to Myrtle Beach. Okay. There was no music scene in Wilmington, zeros, just what was happening. There was a really cool bar called the Soapbox that had you could do your laundry and watch a show. And it was just tiny stuff. There really wasn't anything significant happening in the city of Wilmington. 2008, there's this really cool amphitheater where they were just doing Shakespeare, as far as I know. And how did you get to do the first show at the Greenfield Lake Amphitheater?
It was there for the taking. And it was the Penguins' 5th birthday celebration. Tiff Merritt, who I don't know if you're familiar with, kind of a singer-songwriter, folk singer, had some ties to Wilmington. We put together a show. We made a little bit of cheese and was like, man, this was awesome. It was a really cool event. It was a total cluster, by the way. Nobody knew what the hell they were doing, but we pulled it off. And I think we did 2 shows in 2008 and then a couple in 2009, and it became its own business. And as a promoter, to have the vehicle of a radio station, and a radio station that really has no rules, that can really go deep in the playlist, to have that as your arsenal and to educate your audience on what the artists are going to sound like is really, it's so valuable. And that is how the music scene really was built, kind of off the Penguins' back, but more than anything, just the community who was starved for live music coming out of the road. We're out selling Charlotte and Raleigh and all these big markets, and agents were really taking notice. And they were like, what the hell's going on? And it was like a little bit of the Penguin and a little bit of this beautiful amphitheater, Greenfield Lake Amphitheater, which just has this magic about it. Just kind of enchanted little space on the lake.
I asked JJ Gray about it once. I said, I saw you at Greenfield Lake, and he said, that place is magical. Because he's kind of a swamp guy, and Greenfield Lake has this cool, how would you describe it? What are those trees?
200-year-old cypress trees, giant pine trees, alligators in the lake. I mean, the lake kind of has a 180-degree view behind the stage, and there is not a bad seat in the house. The back of the venue is closer than the back of a General Gold Circle at one of those big sheds. I mean, it's 1,400 seats, and it is just smoking. And then you have the audience has got this energy about them, because we may go deep on these artists' records, again, trying to promote the show, but also trying to educate the audience. And so I think that energy is noticed by the artists. It's like they're not just singing the words to my hit, they're singing the words to all of them, and then they give it right back, and it whips them up in a frenzy. It's exactly what happens at a magic atmosphere at a Panic show, when you just know you're firing on all cylinders, audience and band coming together. And the success of that venue opened eyes to the city and the potential that this piece of land, this 6-acre piece of land that was supposed to be a baseball stadium, which, by the way, if you look at the venue, is very much shaped like a baseball stadium. You can guess exactly where home plate would have been based off of where the stage is, and that's the case. That got voted down. It should have gotten voted down. It was going to be a boon. That's bad, right? It was not going to be good for the community, but
No, boon is good.
okay, it was
A boondoggle. A boondoggle. It was a boondoggle.
I mean, with
Mr.
vocabulary.
Yale over here always wins. Either way, it wasn't going to be great, and the citizens sniffed that out. So again, they realized that Greenfield Lake Amphitheater, live music, all of these, the heads in beds tax, restaurants, and they put that to a vote. There was a lot of behind the scenes things that went along with that, but the citizens voted on it, 66%, and that was forever ago. It feels like maybe 2015, and now here we are in 2021 with a absolutely gorgeous amphitheater, getting ready to get broken in true fashion, trial by fire.
It's almost funny that it's like, could there be like a better and worse band to start with than what it's so good. It's gonna be so rowdy and awesome, but it's like, imagine you're like, oh, we've never done a show before. I mean, I was joking with someone just about the traffic flow. Like, nobody has any idea the traffic corridor. Like, it could be.
Well, here's the thing: the people at Live Nation, the higher ups, they have it all blueprinted out, right? But then it trickles down to the individual that's the security guard that's just been hired. And it's like, hey, your job's going to be to walk up and down the aisles and make sure people, are sitting, and they're thinking, well, of course they'll be sitting. There's seats down there, and you can see what's happening. That panic, and the person probably throws their hand. I was like, I give up, or the supervisor be like, remember what I told you? Forget it for these 3 nights, and then
right for every other show.
Yeah, for every
but
other show.
I was joking. I do my show When the Needle Hits the Groove, and I said at the end of it, I just said, you can hear it coming like a train out of control, surely leave you wondering exactly where your ticket goes. I mean, like literally, right? We're wondering where your ticket goes to this new venue, and it's just going to be electric. I can
that
only
was poetry. Did you write that?
Oh, it's just one of my. It's going to be, I've thought this very thought, like when that band comes on stage and does their thing and busts into that first tune, which is going to be disco. And what do you think?
I think Let's Get Down to Business, which is not one of my all-time favorite.
Because the business of the new amphitheater.
I don't know. I just think that's.
Well, no, that would kind of make sense. Like,
I don't think they're thinking of it like that.
Oh, you really? Yeah, I don't think Panic thinks about the songs that they play. Yeah. I think they just go out there and rip it out. It's going to be, special. It's going to be wild, man. It's the only shows in the South, kind of like there's Memphis. But like, if you live in Georgia, if you live in Virginia, if you live in I don't think that there's any shows in the sort of Southeast besides these shows. Am I wrong? I mean,
I think that you're right. And that one's a festival. This is a bit of an aside, but it was kind of a work of art watching management and the band roll out these dates, most likely strategically, where it's, just one after the other was like, Uncle, I don't have any. Red Rocks is finally the last. Oh, there's tunes for tots now in front. Like, it was just, and then Mexico. It just, they really must have platted that out week by week by week to squeeze as much blood out of the turnip as they possibly could.
Yeah, they did. It was pretty brilliant. I mean, they've sold, I think, a lot of tickets to a lot of shows. The Saturday night show sold out 6,000 people. What? How many people?
7,200. All 3 in less than 10 minutes.
All 3 shows are sold out.
Oh yeah,
20,000 tickets. My going back to, Bo told the story. All of that, the momentum of the theater, it was just a 25, 6-year-old guy who went up there and was like, man, this is an amphitheater. Like, they're doing Shakespeare here. Wouldn't it be cool if they, did shows? And that's what's really led us to today. And, Bo is just a super humble guy and he really would be the last to take credit for it. But those in the know that, man, we wouldn't be in this spot without all the, just the, the vision. He's a visionary. He saw something, and tomorrow it sort of morphs into something bigger than he even imagined. Right? It was like, this would be great. Now, Wilmington went from nothing. It was nothing. It was Myrtle Beach, and then freaking Norfolk or something. I don't know. And it was, we weren't even on the map. And then at a certain point, after Bo got this thing cooking, Wilmington became a crucial piece of routing a band through the South. It was a place that everybody wanted to come play Wilmington, and we have all been the beneficiary of it. The shows that have gone on here are just, and just incredible stuff. And anyway, so I just wanted to put this guy in context because Harvey reached out to me to talk about the shows, and I'm like, you're talking to the wrong guy, man. There's one guy that you need to talk to because in addition to all of the things we're talking about, this guy loves Widespread Panic, man. He is as devoted and into Panic as pretty much anybody I know. So yeah, I had to just say, man, I'm going to give it up to the man over here. And so I'm going to go hang with the kids. You got the man. It's great to see you guys. And there you go, man. I'm just going to say it one more time. G-Mac forever, baby.
Jeff Hansen, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we'll be here all week.
Wind him up. Take care, buddy.
So the thing that gets me, I worked in radio for a little while, of how you pull off a commercial FM radio station in a AAA format. Like, is it Wilmington? Is it like pure desire or brute force? I mean, how does that work?
I think brute force, maybe time. To quote, I guess maybe Andy Dufresne from Shawshank Redemption, time and pressure. The secrets of geology, and that is that if the Penguin was about to be flipped, it had existed for 2 years while Mark and Jerry ran it. Phenomenal station. But it was such a niche of a niche of a niche, and nobody really understood it in terms of the commercial. You had your vegan store, or your health food store that you get it. That kind of, you understand why they would connect those dots. But as the bands that we were playing grew legitimacy, whether it was through the launch and advent of Bonnaroo or just becoming big, maybe it was the Black Keys who were underground but then became big. As those bands grew, our credibility and legitimacy grew as well. So after a while, it was like, oh yeah, I've heard of the Black Keys or Adele or insert band here. I've been hearing them for years on the Penguin. And then it kind of became the cool thing. And the concerts, once we did those concerts and really figured out, like not the first couple, but really started doing the concerts, then you had an experience to go along with the Penguin. It was an outing and memories. And then the longer we lasted, there was memories with kids, emails. People are like, man, I don't bond with my kid anymore, but we can bond over the Penguin because we both like this same band. And I think all of that time existing created this niche for us to just be a really cool part of Wilmington, the fabric of Wilmington. And quite frankly, Widespread Panic has got so much to do with that most no one that listens to Penguin recognizes. It's not just that we play them, it's the whole way I've approached music, because they were my genesis. If I was playing J.J. Cale or even familiar with them, it was because of Traveling Light and going backwards. It's just where I got started in my musical journey when I was 16 years old, was through Panic. I mean, it's like if I'm holding back all these great Halloween songs, even though I'm dying to play them in the month of October, it's because I've learned to be disciplined. We break them out on that day and blow people's minds. People might be, I'm probably overthinking it. They probably don't give shit about it, right? They may not, but every now and then people understand, like, oh, it's raining, or there's a rainbow across town and the Penguin's playing the rainbow song. That freedom to do, kind of to have art, replicate life is real life is important, and it lets people know that people are paying attention there at that radio station. It's not just some programmed BS.
So Harvey, Bo totally would have gotten my Simon Horrocks joke the other day.
Did I miss it?
No, it's inside baseball. So one of the things in listening to you talk, it's what you're doing and how this has sort of been constructed is very old school to me, especially around the radio station when radio mattered. And I think that's one of the things that, here in Memphis, especially, I'm wearing the shirt of our very non-commercial radio station, WYXR, which is a nonprofit station associated with Crosstown Concourse and University of Memphis. And it's a great station, but the niche that it serves is definitely not the niche that you found. And because it is very much, the niche I inhabit, which is, rare soul records and dance music and DJs and Memphis music and that sort of thing. And so when Panic was announced as the headliner from Mempho, I texted the program director, who's a friend of mine, and I said, "Hey, if you ever need anybody to come on and do a extensive breakdown of Widespread Panic, just let me know." And he kind of like laughed at me, and I was like, "No, I'm actually kind of serious. I actually could do that." But because Widespread Panic was played one time on the station, and it was when they announced the Mempho Festival, and it probably won't get played again. I don't even remember. It might have been. It was something off of Till the Medicine Takes, I think.
Yeah.
No. I'm sorry. I think it was. It might have been Henry Parsons, actually. But anyway, so what you're talking about, especially with around the bands, and so I guess I'm a long runway or run up to asking the question is, what you've created is sort of a market that bands can't ignore, and I think in Memphis we've become a market that bands can and do ignore. Memphis used to be a primary city, and now it's not even a secondary city for rooting for most bands. Doesn't even matter what level at this point. And so talk about sort of the magic that you've sort of harnessed in Wilmington in terms of Greenfield Lake, and then moving up to a 7,200 seat amphitheater in a not very big city, and sort of what I guess it's talk about the community response and the buy-in, but then also sort of the corporate response, because obviously in this day and age, promoting an independent venue of that size is impossible. So talk about how the relationship with Live Nation got started too.
I'll jump into that. I think in terms of just what you mentioned, though, in terms of a market that bands can't ignore, I think that's kind of two-pronged. One is the energy and the money is there for the most part, right? They're getting paid, and that's great, and discovering a new market. And then there's the radio aspect of it, where I've always tried to connect the dots for the agent, and using my ties from the radio side to connect the dots with the label, who all they really want in life is for their records to get played on the radio, is to say, hey, we're playing this record. Can you please contact the agent and tell them how much we're playing this record, or we're on the third single. And so it almost has become a portion where they can, and they oftentimes do, but some of them don't want to ignore that part of it, right? They want to either throw us a bone, or they want to play a market where their music's getting played. I think that's been a big part of it, is just trying to harness those relationships and connecting those dots, because at the end of the day, we all want a path of least resistance to a successful show. But I don't think that those two camps talk to each other as much as you would, maybe hope that they would. The corporate response, the Live Nation coming in, I'll say, I mean, I've learned to like them a lot. The people that I work with in Live Nation are North Carolina locals, and they're great people. The corporate Live Nation still scares the shit out of me. They're very big and powerful, and once you kind of get in that machine, you're a cog. Fortunately, they really came down, and by the venue, Riverfront Park, the future venue, taking so long to be built, we struck up a relationship at Greenfield Lake, and they kind of gave me full autonomy, but let me use their buying power, so to speak, and their name. And it let them really see what the energy and vibe we had at Greenfield Lake Amphitheater. It let them see the ticket sales. And I mean, just when you talk about selling out something, and then an agent saying, why did you all sell out so fast when my Chicago market hasn't sold out yet? It kind of just let them know, all right, we're in the right place here. I think it gave them more confidence to get the Riverfront project to the finish line, because it did have several kind of financial changes, just the way things go with building materials and whatnot. But they really put in a big chunk of change, it feels like, to get it to the finish line. That said, they are corporate, and they can't help being who they are. And so there are things that at Greenfield Lake, which will subtly change, and at Riverfront Park, which you can expect, which is, the regularly priced beers or irregularly priced beers. And I think, at this point in the culture, that's forgivable and understandable. But at Greenfield Lake, I do believe that had we started from the word go with a $12 beer and, maybe not letting kids in 10 and under, which is what we did for years, I don't know that we could have created the magic and the fabric that we did that led us here to where we are. I don't want to see any of that ever go, but I recognize that the more hands in the pot, the more that things like that will change.
When Jeff was talking and just hearing you talk, the first thing that pops into my mind is WMMS in Cleveland, which is one of these legendary, AOR stations. And like MMS's claim is that they broke Bruce Springsteen, right? And so there's the famous show, and it's not just famous to me because my wife was born on August 10th, 1978, and Bruce played a show at the Agora Ballroom August 9th, 1978. And her uncle was in the loge at the Richfield Coliseum at Crosby, Stills, and Nash listening to the Bruce show while at set break and then calling the hospital, checking in to see if his first niece was going to be born. Literally, he told that story to us in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame like 7 years ago, and it was one of the most amazing.
Panic Stream when you have to call in the songs.
Yes, like literally. It was hilarious. But anyway, what the point of that story always was, aside from the family connections, was that Bruce Springsteen was like Bruce Springsteen, all caps at that point. But he came back to Cleveland and played this small show that was broadcast on FM and talks about how Cleveland was the city that broke Bruce Springsteen because it was a particular market, because it was blue collar, working class, Midwest. The Midwest made Bruce Springsteen in so many ways. And so here it's, and paying attention from afar about Greenfield Lake, really, you guys were just putting on some great shows, but really sort of reflecting what your listeners liked on the Penguin, but then also putting these shows that were breaking these bands into a totally new audience for some, and a family audience, which, as somebody that does this type of, not programming shows, but this type of work, I tip my cap to you for making a family-friendly venue, which I'm sure Harvey does as well, as both of us having two small kids each. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. And that was important. I think when I look back, it's like the kids 10 and under recently had a discussion about, now it's kids 5 and under currently at Greenfield Lake. The Live Nation policy is nationally is 2 and under. But I remember doing it at first. It was like, hey, if the kids, tickets are kind of, they cost what they cost, but if parents didn't feel like they had to throw a babysitter on top, it could have a experience. Maybe they'll come down. And it felt like that, whether it was the case or not, we were selling out shows. And kids were over there playing in the grass. And I was like, well, this is working, and they're not really taking any seats. So that all just kind of happened the way it did. I want to kind of can I talk about Lucas Nelson a little bit? Talking about breaking like an art, Willie's son. Lucas Nelson.
Sure, yeah.
So we had him at the Whiskey, a little 150 cap club, which no longer exists. And I remember we were agonizing over whether the ticket should be $5 or $7. And he just blew the crowd away. He's so talented, along with his band. A few years later, I thought coming to Greenfield Lake and thought maybe we bit off more than we could chew. It was right after his self-titled record came out, and they just had all this phenomenal. The label had put out all this phenomenal interview footage where it was just him talking about his dad and stuff. Because usually you kind of was hard to pry that out of them. They'd ask, don't do interviews, but there was enough of that kind of B-roll audio to where basically in the radio ad, all I did was say, don't miss Lucas Nelson. This is what he's about, and it would kind of talk about him and his dad. It was enough of a campaign that the show sold out. Knocked his socks off. He had not sold that many tickets anywhere, I don't think. And we created this really special bond. I remember the label calling, like, how did you do it? What did you do? So Lucas and I became friends. And we got hit in 2018 by Hurricane Florence. Crushed Wilmington, flooded us out, cut us off from the rest of the world for like 5 days. I wake up one morning, a text message came in at like 2 a.m. He was out in Maui, so he probably sent it much early in the evening. That this is from Lucas, seeing what's going on in the news, how can me and the band come and help? He was filming with Lady Gaga at the time, or just wrapped up the movie. Their plates were so full, and he offered this. We could not figure out a date, and I was like, man, it's a great gesture. He would not let me stop. He would not give up. He insisted. So finally in October, the storm hit early September, we find a date. He and his bandmates fly in, a couple of them with their kids because they had them. with them and whatnot. And we raised $65,000 for the city of Wilmington. And I tell you, because the mayor came out, gave them a key to the city, and that the Riverfront Park was already on its way. But I just think that at that point was such a big turning point for the city of Wilmington to get behind us and root for us and champion us. That it really just made a big difference. I mean, all the way on down to us, saying we're going to book Widespread Panic for the first shows. They had some experience with the Azalea Fest. The shows were okay. It was kind of a bit of a scene because it was just a different vibe, and that was I think we kind of regained their trust a lot that night with Lucas. Not that we didn't have it, but there was something special that happened that night. When the city came together, the municipality and the citizens. I mean, to raise that kind of money from a gesture from an artist was a big deal.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Can you? So Panic played at Azalea Fest in 14.
Yeah.
So were you a part of bringing them to town for that? And can you talk a little bit about the last time they played?
Yeah.
7 years ago?
I was. So the Azalea Festival is a long-running festival. It's not a big music festival, but they have in recent years, a few years before Panic really started putting a highlight and emphasis on these concerts. They have a rotating cast of board members that start at secretary, and each year I think you move up from vice president eventually to president. And I knew the guy that was doing it, and really, I just kind of pushed on the fact that you guys are going to break your concessions records for sure. You'll raise a lot of money, and it'll be a great show. And a lot of people will come to town. And they were good shows, but they were in a parking lot. At the end of the day, they were in a parking lot. I think Knoxville, a 420 show one time was in an asphalt parking lot. We probably did film where it's like, all right.
I was there. It was not pretty.
Yeah, switch to the live music experience starts with the atmosphere. And because it was Azalea Festival, the security was incredibly difficult. So it really set a bad tone from the word go. And again, Panic did their thing, and they were great. And they broke out some great songs. I think the second or third time they did Honky Red, Plastic Jesus came out of nowhere. It was like that came and went so quickly, but it was maybe the second time or third time they played that. So some memorable bust outs, but at the end of the day, the atmosphere just wasn't. It was more of a festival atmosphere than what we're going to get on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I mean, like I said, the energy is in the air. There's restaurants participating and, breaking out menu items and launching beers named after their songs. And,
oh, cool.
Yeah. So I just feel like there's almost a different level of respect. Like it's odd because it's only been 7 years, but it seems like in those 7 years, people have got on board in a different way than what they did at Azalea Fest. And maybe they got lost in the shuffle there. I don't know.
Not to play any favorites, because I know all the local merchants are great supporters, but if anybody's watching this that's going there, will be there this weekend, do you have any tips, like besides show up early and prepare to wait in line or whatever, but places to go or any sort of tips for
yeah, I think just taking advantage of downtown Wilmington as a whole, because it's got a great bar scene there, it's got a lot of phenomenal restaurants, but I would say get downtown at 2 or 3 o'clock and find a couple of different watering holes. The River Walk, which goes almost 2 miles, literally ends at the venue. So if you find yourself downtown, don't just walk down the streets, meander down till you get to the river and walk down the River Walk, because it's a beautiful walk. There's a phenomenal Mellow Mushroom there that's brand new. It's like pristine, one of the most gorgeous restaurants I've ever seen with a lot of art in it. And that's got, of course, a lot of great beers. Copper Penny is a must. Eat at place. And I'm going to probably dig myself a hole because they're all my sponsors and I'm drawing a blank.
No, sorry.
I love you all, but downtown Wilmington, just get there and experience it. And then make sure you go to the venue by Riverwalk and try to find a plan on how to get home. I'm curious about the Ubers. I think Ubers in general have taken a major hit nationally with the pandemic. And I just hope that people don't have a terrible experience getting away from the venue. But you might have to have patience and go to a bar and chill for a little while.
Yeah, just go. Yeah, wait an hour. That's fine. Yeah. So how are you gonna? Are you gonna get to enjoy it at all? Or are you gonna be chewing fingernails all weekend? Or
I'm a little bit. Yeah, I've been a little bit anxious since yesterday, with it coming up, in which I just need to chill out. I don't have to work the show. I'm recognizable dude in Wilmington. I'm certainly going to be behaving myself in terms of maybe just having a couple of beers and trying to just live in the moment of what we have created and culminated as a community, and with an exclamation point of my favorite band. And I hope I can do that. A lot of the folks from Live Nation are down, so I'm sure we'll have a celebratory toast or something like that. But I think I'm going to tuck away in my little section, have my buddies on each side, and just dance my ass off, man. I can't wait. I really can't wait. And I think, Buck Williams, their manager's got history here in Wilmington. So I think the band, it's not just another stop. I think there's a lot of personal ties here. Paul Hoffman's longtime girlfriend is down here. Jeff Duckworth, who was the merch man, and lots of their friends live here in this town now. So I think that, from what I understand from reading an interview today in Port City Daily, the band really is quarantining in their dressing room. Like they're kind of treating it like basketball or baseball. They're in their bubble still. I think that they recognize there's a lot of the home team here, and I hope that they blow it up. I think they're going to.
What's your so you said your section, so where is your section? Where are you going to be? Are you going to be where do you like to be for shows?
Wouldn't all the listeners like, no, after that
No.
I gotta be top secret. No, I'm in section 103. I don't know if that's Mikey, Jimmy side or school side, and I'm about 5 rows back from the pit, so I'm up close and personal. I don't like to be too close. Years ago, I fought to get front row at Walnut Creek, and then I was there, and I felt so much pressure. Right?
The band's just looking at you. Right?
Yeah,
it's like there's no bathroom song. You can't walk away.
that's right. You have to like old Joe, though.
You gotta like. So I was like, never again. I remember thinking, I'm like, second row would still be too close. I'm a second row kind of guy, I think.
What's your? Do you have an opener call for the first night?
I'm not passionate about it for whatever reason. Let's Get Down to Business is stuck in my head. I was hell bent that disco would be the first song back. At Red Rocks, and then of course they threw in the old curveball with Tunes for Tots. I'm like, well, that still counts. Maybe disco there. And then Wondering, of course, comes on. It's like, of course.
Right.
Of course it was that. It's just
Right.
Wondering. No, Let's Get Down to Business. I'll call it because I don't have anything else to call.
I think that's a good call. I think you got a good shot.
I could call them all. I like at the show, I like to just call them all till my friends were like, if you name every song, you're going
Right. So the band has been, like we talked, or Jeff talked about how they, or maybe you did, how they kind of parsed out the shows this year, and talking to Ted Rockwell, it seems like everyone is special. There's no sort of throwaway shows, right? Especially you guys, like being the first shows in the venue, or in Memphis or in Chicago, or all the places that they like to go. Is the hope that Wilmington becomes a regular stop, in the rotation for these, because they've gotten to where they're doing these stands, these weekend, residencies, which totally makes sense. And so is the goal to get Wilmington on that.
As a fan, the hope is definitely there. As just a businessman in this business, I think that there'd have to be a real compelling reason, in which case, if these shows go off without a hitch, the vibe is great, and nothing super glaring that can't be fixed. I would find it real hard to see why they would go to a Charlotte or a Raleigh when they could play Wilmington, and there's a lot of bands. A lot of times the venue is, the promoters are in the driver's seats. Like, you're going to play where we send you the offer. We all know that Panic is in their own driver's seat. And I would hope that this could be one of those Southeast dates. Raleigh, Walnut Creek was legendary for so many years in late 90s into early 2000s until the sales kind of dropped off. But I'm thinking that this might have that energy of that reunion. You got a lot of folks that may have not been able to make it to shows because they had small kids or were in their career that can break away and want to re-experience that. So, and it's a sweet size venue, right? It seems like it was easy for them to sell out, but that's still a fantastic payday. Not too big. So I think that's the hope. And I would suspect, I think it would happen, but I can't say because I don't know.
Well,
So
I'd like to get. I'm going to try to get down there if that happens again. But
Oh man, Wilmington's beautiful, bud. It's gonna be hotter. It's gonna be hot, hot.
So are you bringing on people that were at the Trask Auditorium shows in 94, 96, bringing them on for special interviews this week to talk about their memories of Freddie Jones Band and the Connells and
Oh man,
Double Maggot Brain and all that great stuff?
I probably should have thrown that out there. There's no doubt a lot of folks in Wilmington, but
An oral history of 90s Panic.
I cannot imagine what it sounded like. That is the boomiest room. I mean, it is a concrete rectangular box, and it is. I cannot imagine what it sounded like in there back then. My first show was in '97, so I missed out on that fun.
What was your first show?
It was Walnut Creek '97. They opened with Gradle.
Yeah.
And I think Dying Man was probably in its fourth or fifth turn at that point.
712. Is that Give Droll, or Give Droll was the night before, right?
No, I think JB was
Warren.
Give Droll and old government mule there too. So it was it was both of them, as I remember. It was burned in my. So this I was a dishwasher at that time. I was 16, and the guy's some waitress's boyfriend happened to be a taper. So I went to this show and then came back and was washing dishes the next day or the following day. And she's like, "Here's the tape, kid." And I'm like, "Here's the tape." Like,
So what is it?
I kind of knew the culture was there, but I'm like, "How did you get this so fast?" And and I wore that thing out, man. And it may be the same version that's on Panic Stream, but if I listen to that Panic Stream, it takes me. I listen to it so much. It's one of those things that transports me back immediately to the smell, just where I was in my life. It was pretty cool. But I think that hooked me in. Like, that was a big part. Like, I could listen to it almost instantly. And back then that wasn't the case, that you could get it that quickly unless you knew a taper, which I didn't. I just didn't know I did anyway.
Do you have another memory besides? Is that the one? Like, if you had to say, like, what's the one Panic memory that stands out? If you could go back and relive, or
there's a couple, man. The Halloween, Long Cool Woman, Soul Kitchen, was that 2000 or 2000?
Yeah, that was 2000.
I think that's probably ranked up there as certainly some of the best shows that they ever did, or at least set list. That one stands out. I was a Black Eyed Pea, which was probably one of the most unoriginal costumes at the time. I think my buddy told me about it. I was like, "That's brilliant." And get to the venue, I'm like, "Oh, this is a thing that lazy people do." There's 40 of us. The breaking out the Waker a few years ago, and the Colonel Bruce kind of Zambi tributes they've been doing at the Fox stand out to me in recent memory. And those Walnut Creek 420 shows, and just that whole Walnut Creek, I was young enough to be kind of in that Summer of Love vibe in my head. There's probably a lot of juices flowing at that point. It just stands out as just very fond times.
Nice. Well, Bo, we know we don't want to keep you all night, and certainly I know you got a lot going on in the next few days. And thank you so much for taking the time to be with us, and congratulations on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know you haven't quite gotten to the finish line. You see it; it's right there, and I hope you get there.
I hope it goes off without a hitch. I mean, Riverfront Park it's here to stay, and it's going to be, like Jeff alluded to, it will be here for decades. Hopefully, helping people create memories in this town, and then helping prop up our economy. But this is the start of something great. Live Nation is doing a great job, and my colleagues there are doing a great job programming that room. I don't know that we'll ever be able to outdo what we've done this year, and 3 nights of Panic to open it up. It's super special. So I hope anyone who comes here gets there early, has a good time, and also just exercises patience and understanding. I'm pretty sure it's going to run well, but we all got to understand at the same time, not only is it new, but everyone's been out of practice from this line of work for a very long time.
Be nice to your security guards, tip your bartenders and wait staff well, and
yeah, right. I mean, going to the Phillips Arena over the years, the ushers became a part of that. They probably were like, "I want to work on that night. That crowd is fun," and I really hope that is certainly evident for the folks that are going to be the ushers and the bartenders, because there's nothing better than the good people, man. I mean, we're good. We're good to those other.
All right. Well, Bo, thanks so much. And again,
Thanks, Bo. Appreciate it.
Congratulations and best of luck this weekend. And
Thank you, Harvey. Thank you, Jeff. Cheers.
Yeah. Take care. Good luck.
All right, Jeff. That was fun, man. I'm so psyched for those guys.
Yeah, it's
how hard they've worked.
Building a venue, building anything from scratch, but being a part of something like that means so much to a community. Being somewhat in that line of work and just trying to build community around music, and like he's done it, or he's done it already. And now trying to help do it in a bigger venue. And like, I don't know if you looked at their list of shows, but they've got like huge shows. They've got Santana and Avett Brothers, and Chicago, and some other stuff coming to Wilmington. Like, there's no way that those bands would have ever come, anywhere remotely close to Wilmington, North Carolina, without him and without the work that he and others have done. So, tip of the cap to you, Bo. You would
absolutely
you should make him a regular guest to talk about some old school North Carolina Panic, but I have a feeling we're going to be hearing a lot more about the stuff he's doing in Wilmington too.
Yeah, and they've still got the smaller venue going. They have a really nice schedule. They've got going there too. So String Cheese is playing a couple nights, and Big Something.
I mean, we talked about it, but like just family friendly venues, and like letting
the idea of 10 and under free is genius. I mean, I just want to say, like, we went and saw Green Sky Bluegrass at the Riverfront in Louisville, which is where Billy Strings played, and it was an outdoor show. And I guess it was originally set up to be like socially distanced, but then it ended up being, pretty loose, right? And so there was tons of space, lots of kids there. And I was like, man, we should have brought the kids. Like, this was great. And so then this weekend, Dark Star Orchestra is playing there as well. And I was like, well, that would be fun. Like, why don't we take the kids? We have a blanket and some chairs, and, seriously, like, it's just a lawn. You know what I mean?
You just have one blanket? Just one?
No, with blankets.
Oh, yeah, it's hard to be sure.
So anyway, then I go and look, and it's like the tickets are $35 a piece. And it's like, no, I'm just, and now I would totally do it if I could bring my kids for free. Like, I would go. I would pay $35 for each of us, and we would buy drinks and have a good time. But it's like, I'm not going to pay, what is it, like $200 to go see Dark Star. So, anyway, I wish that was something that more places would consider. Especially when they've got a bunch of space. You know what I mean? Because that's all like, us parents want. We just want to be out in public every once in a while.
I think I was during one of our breaks, I was telling my wife Jen about that, and her response was, it's like one of the few things that is actually for people in our age demographic. It's like, so everybody out, they're 18 to 24, and these key demographics, but like, that is precise. What they're doing is precisely for people, like you and me, which is, we've got kids that are 8 and 5 now, 8 and 6, and I've got 8 and 2, and like, exactly. If that was it, we've got free venues here in town. We've got free shows, just like everybody has free shows every once in a while. But like an actual paid show, the fact that you can take the kids with and not spend money on a babysitter is a really big deal for a lot of people. So it's great.
So kudos to Bo and those guys in Wilmington, and I look forward to seeing how that goes. And, happy to have a connection down in Wilmington. Now I have a reason to go to the beach.
Definitely. Do you have any predictions for the weekend, Harvey?
No, not specifically. I do think that they're gonna like, I think it's gonna be rowdy. You know what I mean? Like, I think Red Rocks was and I think Ted laid it out really well. It sounds like there were some really great moments, but it feels like that was like professional Panic, and like this weekend's gonna be like rowdy Panic. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I agree. I think the rust has been knocked off now. That they're going to get back in the groove, and they're going to have a highly partisan crowd in a brand new place and try to break it in a little bit. But yeah, just I think it's going to be it's going to be as close to the old school as you can get, I think. And I think that's one of the things that's, one of the things that was so exciting about seeing this on the schedule wasn't just the usual stuff that we expected on the tour schedule, right? I mean, obviously Austin shows were carried over, the Napa shows were carried over. We knew Milwaukee was coming. It was just waiting for Halloween and New Year's and so on. But like to see these new venues come up and to see these new shows and see it in a place where Panic has played, a handful of times before, in the heart of Panic country, be good stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. If you
thanks for the multiple comments, Doyle Shiver. I believe he had
yes,
the last 7 comments in the feed, so thanks to you.
Yeah, and everybody for watching. We appreciate it, and follow us on all the different social media platforms, and I guess we're on YouTube now too. So there's that. If you want to subscribe and smash that subscribe button. I think that's what they say. The kids say these days. But yeah, and if you're going to the shows tonight or this weekend, have a great time. Be safe and have some patience with those folks down there. But super excited for that. And many thanks to all the folks that came on tonight. Thanks to Ted Rockwell for coming on to break down the Red Rocks stuff, and then Jeff Hansen and Bo Gunn from Wilmington and the Penguin. We have to check out the Penguin on the get the stream going during the day.
I think Jeff Hansen wearing that Kudzu King shirt. I think we've got our guest for when we finally do the George McConnell retrospective.
I dig it. All right. Well, thanks everybody again, and we will we'll talk to you soon. I guess what's our should we commit to? I mean, we're going to do another one in between the next two. What comes after is Asheville? Asheville's like early August, right?
Yep, it's that first full weekend in August.
So maybe we'll try and come back in between those two.
And we are experts in Asheville. We were just there, so we could talk extensively about the greater Asheville area.
Right. All right. Well, thanks everybody. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Jeff.
Take care.